And you're welcome to Business Time. Thank you very much for staying with us. I am Prince Minkah, and today we've got an interesting conversation coming up. We've also got a line of activities that you'll love to pay attention to, especially the commodity market and what's happening with regards to our currency as against other foreign currencies on the world market as well, which we'll bring to you much later. But today, we talk about the currency. We're going to be talking about the currency, the Ghana cedi. How is it faring? Is it weak? Is it strong? Going into 2017, should we be highly expectant? My guest is in the studio. I'll introduce him shortly. But Business Time is proudly brought to you by Addae, and that's your home of quality roofing sheets and utensils. And also, La Villa Hotel is proud to be associated with Business Time. We'll come back shortly. We'll get into the conversation. Welcome on board.
Welcome to Addae Group Limited. We are producers of quality kitchenware as well as high-standard roofing sheets. Over the years, we have churned out durable products, making us a leader in the kitchenware and roofing industries, both locally and in the sub-region.
In the West African sub-region, with the kitchenware, we are in Togo, we are in Benin, we are in Burkina Faso, and then Mali as well. Now with the roofing, we are targeting the reconstruction countries like La Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone.
Addae is calling on the public to be part of the bigger Addae family by purchasing Addae products. Contact us on 0302 747 441 or visit our website www.addaegroup.com. Addae, excellence, our hallmark.
Government has assured operators and consumers of mobile money service that plans to impose a 17.5% VAT on mobile money transaction will now be shelved after assessments of its effect on the financial inclusion agenda of policymakers. The assurance, which was conveyed to stakeholders in the mobile money space in Accra on Thursday by the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecoms, Addae, is a relief to players in the sector who dreaded the impact of the consumption tax on mobile money transactions.
And thank you very much for staying with us here on Business Time. And just as I mentioned to you, we're going to be going into our conversation. We're talking about the Ghana cedi. We're also talking about election year spending. Barely 2 weeks to the election. What's the business community's prime concern going into the election? And almost every election year, we get to talk about spending, whether or not government is keeping to fiscal discipline. We'll get into that conversation shortly. But remember, you can get live and interactive with us on our various social networking platform. I'll be glad to share your thoughts on the show. But here's my guest. He's the CEO of Data Bank, and Kojo Addae Mensah is right here with us. He's in the best position to talk about this issue. Welcome, Kojo.
Thank you very much, Prince.
Good to see you as well.
Good to see you again.
Almost 2 weeks to the elections,
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, in my view, elections, I know it's tight, but we are overblowing the issue in Ghana, in my view.
Oh, really?
Yes, we've done this 7 times, or we are going into our 7th election. So by now, Ghanaians should know that it's just a milestone in our progress. You do it, you go, you vote, and we move on. I mean, other countries do it normal. I mean, election day comes, you go, you cast your vote, and then you move on with your life. But we are trying, I think we are overplaying it. We're making it a life and death issue. You see people taking clubs, machetes, and the like, hitting and trying to kill each other just over an election. In my view, is overplayed. I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm not saying that we don't need to get the right leaders in place, but I'm just trying to say we create unnecessary tension out of elections and make the country sort of grinds to a halt. Everybody says, let's wait after the election. Even to go and buy new clothes, some people say, oh, I'll wait after the election. I mean, it's that ridiculous.
But what about you in the business community? I mean, whenever we're getting into the elections, you get to talk about, are investors worried? Are investors holding their breath? Are they holding back to wait and see? What's the situation?
It's a big issue. It's a big problem, especially for those of us in the investment banking space. Maybe the commercial bankers may be a bit better because normal transactions will be going on. But investment transactions are a big issue. Now, I've been in front of several investors trying to downplay the tensions and just trying to encourage them to say, look, the fact that it's an election year doesn't mean that you can't come in and take a position in a company or not play in a capital market space. I've said it over and over again, but you know, I don't know if I'm a one-man crusader or if my colleagues are also doing same when they meet the investors. But the investors are very cautious as well. I mean, they tell us things like, look, Ghana is a country that has been plagued by coup d'etats. I said, yes, it's true, but since '92, we've been one of the safest democracies and the most progressive democracy in Africa, if you so wish. And then they asked me, okay, did Kenya ever have a coup d'etat? I said, well, no, they've never had a coup d'etat. And they said, but you saw what happened after the election. Kenya's post-election violence was one of probably the worst that had happened in Africa, considering that they were such a stable country since 1960. No, violence for elections or anything. So they unfortunately do not separate Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt. The separation is still a difficult thing for them. They're still seeing, I mean, if you look at America as one country with 52 states or whatever number of states it is, and you look at Africa, the same thing, they look at it the same way. So it's very difficult for them.
But you a while ago, you talked about even the average Ghanaian who would obviously want to hold back without spending because of the fears of what might happen during the elections.
It's true.
How does that even affect those who would want to invest? Say you're from Data Bank, you obviously would want to talk about that. How about those who would want to put their monies in the bank or even withdraw or keep their money for some time? How does that affect you?
You see, it's the bottom line is, this is how my business runs. Somebody comes in to invest, so they'll place money with me because, well, I'm pooling funds. So let's talk about our collective investment funds, say, EPAC, M Fund, B Fund, whatever it is. They don't have enough to go and buy a stock on the market. So there are 10 CDs, 50 CDs. They bring the 50, you bring your 50. I pool the resources, I become mighty. Then I go and invest. Out of that investment, of course, that's where I get my management fee. So as my investment assets under management grows, my management fees also grow, and then I'm able to pay for my bills. But when that investment doesn't come in the first place, then in fact the source of my breath, where my bread and butter is cut off, which means that we are also not able to mobilize. Now, there are businesses out there that are looking for funds from us, long-term capital, to improve their businesses, for the economy to improve, for jobs to be created. So it's a huge domino effect that is coming through when one person even decides that, look, because of election, I'm not sure of what is going to happen. There will be violence. My money will be stuck in a bank, so I need it under my bed so that if I have to run away to Togo or Cote d'Ivoire, I have something in the back of my pocket and run. So it impacts us, not only us as individuals, us as businesses, but the economy at large.
To what extent?
To the extent that I'm unable to mobilize long-term funding for Addae, let's say, who wants to expand his roofing business.
Absolutely.
So now he doesn't have access to long-term capital to expand, then to grow the business, to pay more taxes, to create jobs, to employ more people, for that ripple effect to happen. It is a very major issue. Then he is sort of forced to go to short-term lenders, maybe commercial banks, microfinance, savings and loans at cutthroat rates. What then happens? He's unable to pay. His machinery is capital. The bank goes in, or the microfinance goes in, swoops in, takes over the assets, sells them, and repays itself. Addae, the company or whatever, is gone.
All right.
It's a major issue, and we need to just stop this cycle about, or this thinking about election year, that everything must grind to a halt, the economy must grind to a halt before we wait after January 7th when we know where we are going before we start working again. No, people need to keep their lives going. The economy needs to continue growing. So I think we've proven to ourselves as Ghanaians that we are capable of changing governments, of handing over power, of going through elections peacefully. we should believe in ourselves and do it. The violence doesn't take anybody anywhere.
Absolutely. But if you look at, or you take into consideration the U.S. case, when Donald Trump won the elections, the market actually stalled, in terms of growth. And people were wondering, how's it going to look like? And then before you could say, Jack, it started recovering. In the case of Ghana, the narrative has been the need to keep to fiscal discipline during an election year. We've heard the finance minister, Tekbe, reiterate that position of government. But for you, when you sit on the fence and you watch, do you believe them?
This year, I believe only because Big Brother is watching. The only reason we seem, in my view, the only reason we seem to be having the fiscal discipline required, especially in an election year, is because we went to Big Brother, and by that I mean the IMF. We have proven over and over again that without an IMF program, we lose our discipline. It's there from the time I started monitoring economics. We've proven it. It's only when the IMF steps in and says, hey, these are the conditionalities. You can't do this, you can't do that. Even then, I see some of the things, slipping through. But at least they have put in certain conditions that are preventing us from losing the fiscal discipline, especially in an election year. But it saddens me that we need the IMF to keep our discipline. It's not rocket science. These consultants who come through here are not any better than me and you and the millions of brilliant Ghanaian economists and financial analysts out there. There are people who know what to do. It's just disciplining ourselves to say, look, this is the right thing to do. Let's do it. Let's not think short term. Let's think long term. Let's think of our children's children and what legacy we are leaving behind. We always think of what I am doing now and what is important for me now.
There's one thing that you mentioned that strikes me, and it's got to do with, even worries that's got to do with what may happen next year. Now, though we're beginning to see the signs and we can confidently say that government perhaps is doing something right under the watchful eyes of the IMF program, are we sure that going into 2017, we may not have deficiencies with regards to, spending and of course, the health and the general well-being of the economy?
One good thing about the program was that it straddled the election year. And I think it goes up to 2018. I stand corrected, but the program ends in 2018. So I think 2017 will still see relative stability and relative calmness, or the health of the economy will be okay, irrespective of which direction Ghanaians decide to vote. A contract is a contract in my view, and if a country...
But you talk of borrowing, so does that not mean that any government that, any party that's elected and forms a government will suffer the brunt that comes with the external borrowing? Though not excessive, as you put it.
Yeah, but the borrowing, Ghana has been borrowing from time immemorial. Any government that comes in will inherit a certain debt. For me, the important thing is the debt to GDP ratio, which at one point in time, I think we hit almost 80%, which was really, really bad. You can't do that to an economy. You suffocate the economy when you do that. But recently, I've seen that the debt to GDP ratio is beginning to go down. I don't know if it is extra revenue that is coming in that is causing that, or is it the fiscal discipline of not borrowing beyond a certain level that is coming in. The zero financing at the BOG too, I think, is also helping. That's another point to indicate that the IMF is there. So for 2017, I do not anticipate, a major, shift in the policies that are going on. There will be discipline because the IMF will be there. But the test comes after the program. And that is where I feel governments, be it whoever is in power, must prove to us as Ghanaians and to themselves that without an IMF policy, we are still capable of being who we are and doing what is right. I must admit that I had the honor of having a conversation with the Honorable Osafo Mafu, who explained to me how it is that it's possible to do this without the IMF program. He went through a HIPC program, he went through an IMF SALT program, came out of it, and kept his discipline, and he had the courage to look into the president's face and tell him, we will not do this or we will do that because we need to keep our discipline. That's all it takes. We don't
How is it done? I mean, I've read, and since we're going into the elections, we've read all manner of statements being made by the politicians. We can talk about the running mate of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who has time without number been talking about the need to, pass the Fiscal Discipline Act into law.
Yeah.
How, for instance, do you think it can work? And even if we are to go by what Osafo Maafo, the former finance minister, told you, what's the secret without an IMF program?
It's bottom line is your determination to leave a proper legacy for those who are coming through you. Your determination to do what is right.
Let's talk about one thing that will interest not just you, but our viewers as well. And it's got to do with the currency, the Ghana cedi. Some time ago, people pick up the Ghana cedi and then the US dollars and look at it as if they are in a race. And then the big remark that people usually make is that it looks like the dollar is running too fast and the cedi is getting really tired in catching up with the dollar and other foreign exchange. Yeah. I'll get your take on that, but before that, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation.
Welcome to Addae Group Limited. We are producers of quality kitchenware as well as high standard roofing sheets. Over the years, we have churned out durable products, making us a leader in the kitchenware and roofing industries, both locally and in the sub-region.
In the West African